Sweet, looking good there, Pops. All right, I've got John Greene here, the consigliere, and it is October 12th, 2022. Everyone's been loving the interviews. You can see beautiful Oahu, Honolulu in the background. Dad, I want to get your take on these OPEC cuts, which even the mainstream media is calling a slap in the face to the West and Joe Biden. I did a rant earlier today talking about how the whole U.S. economy and world supremacy, as we knew it here in the United States, is based on the petrodollar and oil. I'm sure you're following this. What is your view on the fact that Saudi Arabia has literally pivoted to Russia, to Asia, and the other OPEC nations unilaterally deciding to cut production up to 2 million barrels a day into an inflation storm?
Well, by the way, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So look, Chris, and by the way, I'm going to take this off. Give Travis Matthews a little plug.
He's all over the islands, isn't he?
He is, and get my Island Project hat on.
There you go.
Well, look, as far as OPEC goes in Saudi Arabia, they don't care much about anything. I think especially Joe Biden and the current administration. So they're not out to appease anybody. I don't think they want to go back to 2019 and 2020 with oil at whatever it was, $30 a barrel. So they're going to do what's right for them. And, in my view as well, the next 10 years aren't going to look anything like the last 10 years. And I think in general, it was probably a mirage to think that we had too much oil. I think as time goes on, these guys are going to control production. And we may have a little bit less of everything in this world, oil and everything else. So I wouldn't expect the next 10 years to look anything like the last. And maybe all that huge oil supply we had, maybe that was just kind of a mirage.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That relationship, of course, was based militarily on we were going to provide weapons and also help maintain peace and stability in the Middle East. So that's completely changed. And I find it interesting how the media says Putin is the pariah, yet it looks like with Saudi Arabia pivoting away from us, other countries pivoting away from us, OPEC literally unilaterally saying, look, we care more about ourselves than you, tells me that the global pariah might be Joe Biden and the United States, not the other way around. What's your view on inflation moving forward?
Well, look, I mean, it's here. It's probably here to stay, unless something really breaks. We probably don't want to see that happen. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but we were in a low inflationary environment, for the last 20 years. So I'm just going to go back to what I said before, too. I don't think the next 10 years are going to look anything like the last 10 years. And once you get inflation into the system, it's tough to get it out. So we've always heard about the wage price spiral, right? We haven't seen it in your lifetime. We saw it back in the early 80s. So I think it's here to stay, Chris. We're going to have to work hard to try to tamp down on it. But I would expect for the next 10 years, maybe for the rest of our lifetime or your lifetime, you're going to have some inflation in the system.
So are you seeing this in Honolulu specifically? And how is this impacting friends, yourself? And what do you see going on locally on the ground?
Well, I mean, let's face it, we're in Hawaii, everything is always expensive, right? So we kind of live in our own little paradigm over here. So it's nothing new for us to pay 30% more for virtually everything here than what you would pay for on the mainland. But look, all prices are elevated. We've had a great real estate market like the rest of the country and in Hawaii as well. As that relates to the Island Project, I think we're going to have some opportunities. I think we're going to see some cracks in the market, but everything has gone up pretty dramatically in the last 12 months. So you can really see it. If we shop at Whole Foods, we can really see it. I think basically a lot of my Whole Food shopping has been diverted over to Foodland.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm hunting.
Where I get some better deals.
That's why I'm hunting deer, Dad. See, it's a lot easier and cheaper to go hunt and access deer with some of our island project members and then feed the family for a couple months after. It's local, it's healthier, and I don't have to give Jeff Bezos any more money.
I hear you. And it's a lot more fun. You get some exercise while you're doing it too. But yeah, Chris, I mean, it's in a lot of respects, it's the same old world. We just have a lot higher prices, and everybody can see it. Everybody can feel it.
So you see in the news, and we've talked about this internally, privately for years, even 10 years ago, and probably longer than that, that we've just had a feeling that the world is about to break. And it's kind of like a divorce. There's early warning signs. And now we're seeing all this manifest in the domestic economy, the geopolitical economy. It's been every 60, 70 years, we typically have a world war. And if you go to the media, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Reuters, AP, they keep telling us about nukes, nuclear war, the possibility of tactical nuclear weapons or a cyber event. In fact, it was not really widely reported, but over a dozen US airports suffered a cyber event just within the last couple of days. It affected mostly retail and not the planes in the sky. What, in your humble opinion, you're a level-headed guy, so I want to ask you this question. What do you think the nuclear risk actually is?
Gosh, Chris, I mean, I appreciate the question, but you know, this one is I'm sure it's above my pay grade. But opinions are like, you know what, everybody's got one, so I'll give you mine. But I don't see it coming to a all-out nuclear situation. I doubt if nukes are used at all, even a tactical nuke. I think probably what's going to happen more likely is, and you've kind of spoken to this in the past, but I don't anticipate good things for Vladimir Putin. And I think we're probably going to see something manifest itself in the next 30 or 60 days, once his people really get an idea of what's going on, and they probably do right now. So that's my opinion. And obviously, with Vladimir Putin, either he got spanked too much or he never got spanked. Something is wrong, and my guess is he'll be gone in the next 60 days.
Interesting that you would say that, because I did a report a couple of days ago thinking through that possibility myself, and that would be a huge surprise. Honestly, I think in terms of the public responding to that, I think a lot of people think that Putin is cemented in power for the long haul. Maybe there's even possibility that China, I've read through my own study, that China possibly turns on Putin and Russia at some point as they kind of enter more global world supremacy. I think you're actually on top of it there. And I like the fact that you say we're not going to have tactical or any nuclear weapons go off, because I'm praying that's the case. I'm not sure that will be the case, because I actually think the likelihood of some kind of like tactical event is pretty high. Although I certainly like your answer, but the deposing of Putin, that would really change the ball game in terms of like geopolitically, how everything's going to work moving forward. I mean, what would happen to Russia? This would be like the Bolshevik Revolution, and as we've studied in history, the Red October.
What happened to Russia in the what was it, the late 80s, early 80s, whenever the Russian Federation collapsed? So this guy's trying to put it back together. It's not going to come back together ever again. So any way you look at it, at least from the outside, my opinion, the guy's a failure. He made some mistakes, and he's not going to put this puzzle back together. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wakes up with a bad heart attack. He's got some food that doesn't agree with him, and it could be something as drastic as a Mussolini event, when his population really sees what he's done. So, anyways, who knows? And like I said, my opinion, one of many.
Yeah, well, no, those are very interesting thoughts. Boris Yeltsin suffered a heart attack after the Bolshevik Revolution as well. Don't know if that was organic or not. I would kind of say, on the contrary, if Putin knows that, it sounds like we're on the edge of nuclear war then, because I don't know about you, you might be a good or a bad guy, but if I was a leader of a country like Russia with more nukes than any country in the world, and I thought I was about to be taken out, I would use everything in my disposal to protect against that existential threat.
Yeah, well, only a crazy man would do that. But who knows what we're dealing with, right? So, you're going to sacrifice humanity for yourself. If that's really who the world is dealing with, the guy's got to go for sure. How that happens, who knows? But I imagine that everybody in the world is probably looking at a lot of different possibilities, but the easiest possibility is for that to happen within his own ranks. So,
well, what's interesting? Go ahead.
No, it does happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking about, and it goes it's a long time ago, but a foreign leader was taken out at a, and I'm trying to put my finger on it, but at a parade, and I'm not sure if it was India or not. Very, very familiar and charismatic leader, but he was taken out at a ceremony. As simple as his own security team turning around and shooting him.
Yeah, well, we've had some wild events happen recently, and people just kind of move past it like it's run-of-the-mill news. But former Japanese prime minister, of course, lost his life just a couple of months ago.
Oh yeah, and it was the name I'm looking for was Anwar Sadat. You Google it, find out. A very charismatic leader, but basically taken out by his own people. So you never know.
Yeah, and if
but
Putin
like we've talked about before, Chris, this is one that we might try to control some things, but this is one thing we have no control over.
Yeah, it's important to recognize that if Putin is deposed, of course, that's a way out for the West in terms of Biden saying there's going to be consequences and no one really understanding how these chess moves are going to be made. So if that does happen, that's a way that the new system of government and the power structure essentially can continue. So I think it's a valid point, something we should consider. Let's talk about what we can control, because you and I always talk about that. You focus on what you can do every single day in your own life and maintain positivity and focus and hard work and all those kinds of things. I get a lot of questions. I had a question today from a new Island Project member, and they're like, Christopher, should I sell my house? And what should we do with our money? They're worried about having too much debt. Of course, the Fed is hiking rates. What's your view? Like, look at asset classes right now. What's your opinion on various asset classes, like the stock market? What do you think?
Well, look, in general with the stock market, to me, the last 3 or 4 years, totally artificial. If you're somebody that's really an investor, you drill down deep into it. It's hard to justify the prices for so much that is in that market. So am I surprised to see? I guess the only surprise I had over the last couple of years was that it seems like the playbook and the rules changed. Typically in the market, in any market, in a strong market, you'll get some corrections. Chris, we virtually went without a correction for a couple of years. It started to look like a straight line up. A lot of it, individual stocks, they went parabolic. Some of the chart guys and the technicians in the old days, they looked for a double top, a triple top. Man, on a lot of these double tops and triple tops, it was a parabolic rise. So none of it looked right. I think we're probably getting down to reality here now. Could we go a lot lower? Sure, anything could happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see us knock another 25, 30% off the market. A lot of stocks are getting cheap. But yeah, that's another one. We can't predict it, but just the way a lot of the folks are talking about it, it's almost like they're preparing us for an event. So, and I would kind of leave it to this too. If you go back and if you look at private companies versus the stock market, usually private companies sell between 6 and 8 times cash flow, or 6 to 8 times EBITDA, kind of that number. when you start getting into stock market numbers of everything sells for twice that, 3 times that, 4 times that, unless you're really a great company, it's la la land. So be careful what you wish for.
The dollar is getting stronger, and obviously central banks around the world are supporting the dollar, the least dirty shirt, or as I like to disgustingly joke, the floatiest of the floating turds in the toilet bowl. Should people hold cash right now? If the market's going to correct 30%, what's your view on cash?
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about this. I mean, in general, you want to deploy your assets. There should be something out there to buy. There should be some asset class that looks attractive, but we're in a different world. I mean, you've heard a lot of people talk about the everything bubble. Everything went up. I think maybe in general, some of the precious metals. Okay, I don't think they've gone up, and you're the expert in that, but we have kind of had an everything bubble. So, and back to cash, I'd much rather have a little bit of cash on hand right now. Take advantage of opportunities. We're going to get them. We don't know the timing. There's some out there right now. And as it pertains to real estate over in Hawaii, we're generating all this cash with the island project. We haven't deployed any of it, but we're looking, and we're starting to see some opportunities. We're starting to see some cracks. So do I feel good about having cash right now? Yeah, I do.
Now,
long term, you need to deploy it.
Absolutely. Hawaiian real estate is a different market. Obviously, our market's changed a lot. For example, if the mainland's down 60%, like what we saw in 2008 or 2009, Hawaii, Maui, Oahu typically holds better, especially depending on locations. Could you kind of explain that to the audience? I mean, how do you think if we get a downturn, what is it going to look like on the ground, in your opinion, where we are?
Well, if we had a kind of a mega real estate disaster on the mainland, and I think you're probably right on target. Let's say the mainland's down 40% or 50%, or we have something worse than 2008. And if we go back to 2008, typically Hawaii, if the mainland's down, hot markets are down 40 or 50% or 30%, we could possibly be down half that much over here. You know, we have such an international market, Chris. When you talk about landlocked, obviously we are islands over here. So on Oahu, we have a million plus people. There's still some places to build, but there's not that many places to build, okay? And we're restricted. There's a lot of things you can't do. Just because we see a huge hundreds of acres of land in the North Shore doesn't mean somebody can get a hold of that and develop it. So if I was going to be in real estate, we have a downturn. Hawaii is part of that downturn. Good opportunity to buy it. And all the islands are different. Maui's a different island than Oahu. It's got a different dynamic. As you know, in Oahu, we're very international. In Maui, not so much. There's a lot of mainland Americans, Canadians, a little bit of an international flavor. But you come over to Oahu, I think our biggest population is Filipino. We love, the Japanese love our market. The Chinese are coming in much more than they used to. After the pandemic, we didn't see a lot of Europeans, but I've noticed quite a bit now. Australians. So we're in a dynamic market. Everybody wants to be here. So it's kind of a long answer.
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of the audience is not aware of those details. And we have a more international exposure in Oahu. It's also the first stop typically coming from the mainland. People are going to hit Oahu. Explain, we have a lot of buyers that will come into Oahu, Waikiki, and obviously everyone loves Hawaii. Everyone wants to move here, live here if they can. It's expensive for a lot of people. But explain the market in Waikiki. Most of the beachfront is actually hotels, and that surprises a lot of people. Where are the pockets, and what should they be looking for? Where do you see opportunities, for our project, but also the buyers that we work with that are buying and selling real estate?
Well, you're right. Obviously, you're familiar with the islands. You've been to Waikiki many times, but if you get Waikiki specific, Waikiki is not very big, Chris. It runs from the ocean Um, really from if you exit Ala Moana Mall, for the people that know the island, if you exit the mall and you head east, Waikiki runs up to Diamond Head between the Pacific Ocean and the Alawai Canal, which is a stretch of, it's a waterway, it's a man-made waterway. So there's not, I mean, Waikiki is small. However, it is, if you could say it, is probably overbuilt for what it is. So there's a lot of opportunities, but you're not going to buy. I've got a lot of questions. John, find me some beachfront in Waikiki. And like we talked, like we spoke, and the hotels do own virtually all the beachfront, especially in the heart of Waikiki. So you need to, if you're looking for beachfront condo, you need to go across the street. It'll feel, if we get you a nice ocean view, it'll feel a little bit like beachfront. Other than that, we have to find you a tower somewhere where you've got a nice ocean view, and or we have a spot called the Gold Coast. So if you head right up to Diamond Head, if you head east to Diamond Head and back up to Diamond Head, we have a beautiful stretch of beach. We have a beach called Kaimana Beach. We have a beautiful park called Kapiolani Park. And we have Diamond Head that's kind of the backdrop and kind of frames all that. We probably have about 10 to 15 older buildings. Some are fee simple condos, some are leasehold. Very special spot, but they're not new buildings. But that's where you can find beachfront, but not really in the heart of Waikiki. You have to get up there kind of back against Diamond Head and on the ocean there.
Can you explain to the audience where you are right now?
Sure. I'm at and I'm sure
the park where you're
I'm sure a lot of your audience probably they might be familiar with this, but we've got a lot of great parks. I mentioned Kapiolani Park by Diamond Head. This one here is called Ala Moana Beach Park. So this sits, and if you look behind me, the area behind me is called Kaka'ako. If we go east to my left, we're only about a mile from Waikiki. Directly behind me is Kaka'ako. Over to my left, a little behind me to my left, is the world famous Ala Moana Mall. And we have some beautiful new condos. I don't know if you can see those or not.
Mm-hmm.
They're low rise, but that is a development called Park Lane.
So tell us about those units. Park Lane is one of the newest developments in town. Pricing, what does that look like? Who are the tenants and the owners?
Park Lane is it's a low rise. I think there's about 8 buildings, and it runs about 8 stories high. It's built so you can't see the mall because Park Lane is built adjacent to and connected to the mall's parking structure. So it's Park Lane is the marquee property on Oahu. So we can have beautiful condos. They can look very much like Park Lane on the interior, be the same size, but Park Lane really costs about twice as much. It's going to live like a Four Seasons hotel. Do I think they're necessarily worth twice as much as the others? No. But a 3-bedroom condo at Park Lane, 3,000 square feet, going to run $7.5 million. And they turn. People buy them. 1 bedroom would run about just under $2 million.
Yeah, those are big nuts for sure. I don't know how much of a view you have there. That was interesting seeing the condos. Could you panorama that real quick? I don't know if there's any other view of ocean or anything, just to show the audience they'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to give you everything, but so look, I'm at the park. I'm going to tool around this way. So that's Park Lane. If we keep going down this way, basically you're looking at the beginning of Waikiki. And if we come back around, this is all Kaka'ako.
So what happened there is my dad's iPhone called emergency, which I've been reading about recently. It's been happening on things like roller coasters, and possibly since he was panoraming the park, it called emergency. It's kind of weird. I'm just happy to know that the nukes didn't go off in Oahu, because it sent me an emergency text and an SOS right when his phone video feed cut out. So that might be the end of it. And I will rebroadcast more interviews like these please give us a like and a share, of course, and I'll include contact information in the box below for Island Project and also our real estate brokerage, and contact my father and or our team to help you with anything that you might need. 1000X, we're going to the freaking moon and beyond. I love you guys. And of course, Jesus Christ is King. Links below and up here. And please like this video from my father, and let us know if you would like us to do more videos like this.